The other team, of course, is in this is Arsenal. And blimey, Arsenal. Kai Havertz scores a winning goal very late into the game. Declan Rice put them 1-0 up, wasn't it? And Johan Wissa scores. It was 2-1. Ended up 2-1 with Arsenal with that winning goal from Mikel Arteta. God, so many goals, so many stories. What did you make of this one?
I thought before Ramsdale made the mistake, I thought Arsenal looked very, very comfortable. And that rocked them, that mistake. Going into half-time, just before half-time, it changed the way Thomas Frank approached the second half. I think he just went, right, okay, brilliant, we can shut up shop, we can make life difficult. And they nearly did it. I know there was talk about Kai Havertz, should he be sent off? I think it was subjective. I think it was a really difficult call for the referee. If it goes to VAR, he can't overturn it. He can't give a yellow card for a dive.
But we should,
But it was a big moment in the game. And credit to Kai Havertz. We spoke about it on the show yesterday. Some aren't convinced by him. Some like him. Some find him... I think sort of he hasn't quite hit what we're all expecting him to hit. The potential's there, but we still expect more. However, he scored some big important goals.
It's 8 Premier League goals now.
Yeah.
It's winning, well, there's certainly the winning goal against Brentford twice this season. Yeah. Maybe I think you make a good point there where it's like maybe he's not hitting the performance level that we might expect. $83 million. Arteta thought he can get more out of him than we saw from him at Chelsea. But to be fair, that decision to play him, because Jesus is fit now, was a big one. To sign him in the first place was a big one. To play Jorginho as a holding midfield player, to allow Declan Rice to get forward is a big decision. That's a big decision.
I'd agree.
Because Declan Rice is such a really good holding midfield player that protects so well. But to have him in the problem area, the left side of that three in midfield has been the problem area since Granit Xhaka left. And Havertz, we spoke to Mikel Arteta, Stephen, right at the start of the season, and I asked him flat out on a Zoom call, where's he going to play? And he saw him as a direct replacement for Granit Xhaka.
Wow.
The left side of the midfield. He played him there many times. Didn't do great. Brought him out the side. Tried him again. Tried him in different spots. Tried him as a higher forward. And now he's popped him up front. And not just the goals, the sneaky tally he's creeping up now to 8 Premier League goals, but the way he plays, the aggressive nature of him. He's a big guy. And the work ethic, and he's a durable guy, always available, always fit. He runs up and down, love all that. But the goals, you got to have goals from this guy, and he's starting to score the goals. So the two decisions: Kai Havertz scores a winning goal, and Declan Rice with a header from cross from Ben White, crossed both balls in, didn't he? That's all down to Mikel Arteta.
Can I ask you a question on some? It sort of ties into this. When Arsenal hit that blip, and they weren't doing well, and everyone spoke about this. They need a number 9. Were you in that camp?
I was.
Were you?
Yeah.
And I think that's great management, isn't it, as well, from Arteta to be able to spin that a little bit?
I was in the camp because at the time Martinelli had 2 or 3. Saka had gone through a little bit of a bad patch. We'd got 5. Odegaard got a few. Rice might have had a couple. And I'm like, who's going to get the rest of these goals?
You felt that they needed something else, a plan B.
That might. And it still might, by the way. I felt like not having a bona fide proper number 9 to get your regular 15 or whatever might be a problem.
So the one of the things I'll ask you about that is, so having watched Manchester City away at Liverpool today with Haaland through the middle, effectively Manchester City almost play with 10 men? Because he doesn't give you much off the ball in terms of closing down. The link-up play's not really there. Does it suit Arsenal better and Man City because of the style of play to have that false 9? Because then they can overload the midfield and get more numbers in there and dominate the game?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And Havertz drops in.
Yeah.
We talked about that. It drops in to make a little diamond in there to try and, get the extra man in midfield. But you potentially lose. Haaland doesn't do that so much, does he? Haaland doesn't drop in. No. He's not that real kind of really clever feet sort of guy. He's obviously the guy that gets a lot of goals and scores winning goals and gets in behind a lot. So the Kai Havertz thing is really interesting. The other thing that has really come on since I was talking about this is set pieces.
Oh, it's incredible.
Is it 19 or something?
Yeah.
The last time I checked. And Man City's goals from set pieces was 11. So that's an extra 8 goals compared to Man City production to keep them in and around the numbers of goals required, because these set pieces are in different games, to be to where they need to be. And then the Sheffield United performance 6-0, that was so great for the goal difference, racking up the goals there to give them almost like an extra point, given that the goal difference now is really, really strong. So, I went. And by the way, it might still. Yeah, we don't know who's going to win the title. No. But if Arsenal do it by, this is Arteta's first job as a manager, by the way.
Phenomenal.
It's some turnaround from Unai Emery and back, and Arsene Wenger. The job that Edu and Arteta's done has been remarkable. And even in the face of that, if they can find, I think I made a note, it's here somewhere, but I think I remember it. 7 players of Arsenal have scored 5 Premier League goals or more. 7. Then you throw on the set piece element to that as well.
Yeah.
That's talking about spreading the goals around.
Yeah.
And I think my point a few months ago was, well, it's doing it now. The goals are kind of being spread around a little bit, but can they continue to do that? And they have.
Yeah.
They have.
Incredible.
And your number 9 is starting to get some important goals.
Yeah.
Right, on Havertz, I just do want to go back to that. First half, elbow, yellow card, no problem. It's a yellow card. The dive. So we kind of after studio yesterday, we kind of looked at it, and I looked at it really closely on some software that I can watch the games again. He's kind of lucky, by the way.
He is. Yeah.
He's kind of lucky. Now, I'll put it like this. I absolutely understand why the referee didn't call it. I have no problem the referee not calling that as a dive, because in the quickness of the nature of that happening, right? We saw it, and you're like, oh, he's gone down. There's a challenge coming in. He's gone down. Yeah, I think there might have been a bit of contact afterwards. Not a yellow for diving. Fine with that.
Yeah.
Right? Fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. But, of course, now we've got a zillion cameras. We have a different angles, different looks. And when you spend time, the referee can't do that because VAR can't check this for a yellow card. He kind of went to ground. He kind of went to ground from a couple of different angles. So that's kind of, I hope that's not sitting on the fence, because I have no problem with the decision on the field. But, looking back at it at several angles, he kind of dived and went to ground way too easy. Is that too simplistic?
No. The big thing for me is that this is where I don't want to see games re-refereed.
Right.
By
exactly
VAR.
right. Exactly right.
However,
I re-refereed it with all the multitude of camera angles.
Yeah. But however, I think if you're trying to kid the referee, I think there's got to be an element of if there is a dive, I think you've got to do that for simulation, because we're talking about grassroots football constantly and the example, and we do not like diving in football.
No.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Because it's cheating.
In this country particularly.
Yeah, but it's cheating.
Yeah.
And I don't like that element of it.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to yellow card off the back of VAR. I think
you'd want it off the back of VAR. Yeah, I don't mind that.
I think for certain incidents, but simulation, which is what it is, I think you've got to yellow card. I think that's the big issue. Where they say, well, we can't give yellow cards for certain things. I understand the fouls, but for simulation, stamp it out the game.
You make an exception for VAR to get involved with that sort of
simulation.
thing. I mean, it's an incredibly important call.
Yeah.
Of course, he could have been out of the game, 10 men, he stays on and scores a winner.
Where are we now? Brentford are 15th on 26 points. They could have been on 27 points, and that would have just given them a little bit of a safety blanket away from the bottom. Now they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And they're looking over their shoulders thinking, "Oh, this isn't too comfortable."
Yeah.
So they're 5 points above Luton. Go 6 points. Luton have got to, they can lose 2 games and still be okay-ish.
I mean, the other argument is, like, well, hang on, it was a little mistake. Other mistakes are made in different games that lead to goals. That's why, when before VAR came in, my thing was like, I don't know, like, 'cause some things are going to get corrected by VAR and some things aren't.
Yeah.
So some goals are going to be a little unfair. And we've seen examples of that through different reasons, through second yellows or other mistakes that are made that lead to a goal. So, well, that went out of play, or that shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I guess, it does cut out a lot of errors from the game, from refereeing. But I just think, so, that a little break maybe for Arsenal.
Yep.
I guess if 10 referees refereed that, I reckon 3 or 4 might have given a yellow card for.
But Liverpool got a break the week before, didn't they?
Yeah, and then they didn't earlier in the season with a Diaz goal.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, another big takeaway for us this game, Stephen, was the fighting spirit. Now, we say that a lot, don't we? Well, I think we say it a lot, right? Us, and pundits in general. It's a bit of a cliche. They worked hard. They got fighting spirit about them. We literally saw that. Not literally in fighting, but some of the reactions of Gabriel and William Saliba in that game late on, where they have to defend, where Brentford played an incredible game really for them.
Yeah.
They really stepped up in this match, and there's been history between these two.
Yeah.
It's not been easy to win games. Is that, with Declan Rice chucked in there as well, the physicality, we talked about Kai Havertz's physicality, is that the little bit of extra something that Arsenal might have this year that might pull them over the line?
Well, if you think back to when Brentford first come in the Premier League, on the Friday night when they played at the G-Tech, they bullied Arsenal.
Yeah, I remember that. Absolutely right.
They threw long balls in, and they were physically weak, and they got overpowered.
Yeah.
They're one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful team in the league now, because of that spine where you talk about there, Gabriel and Saliba.
Yeah.
Then you
Rice
go
now.
Declan Rice.
Yeah.
Then you go Havertz. Odegaard's not slight. He's a solid lad.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you go, the smaller players are in the wider areas. You've got Martinelli and Saka, but on a whole, that spine. Ben White's a big lad.
He's a centre back. Yeah.
Even Kivior.
Kivior's a centre back as well.
So when you look at that, you go, that's solid.
Yeah.
And they're up for a scrap in the game. If they want to get dirty, the opposition, not a problem. We can put it about as well. We can match up to that. It's not as physical and dirty as it used to be, football. But there is an element where...
You need it.
Yeah,
City have it.
Exactly.
City have it, the central defenders with Rodri and others that can totally do that as well.
So there's an element where they've got more physically stronger, and that will always help them. But the big thing for me is they're so athletic. You watch the players and they glide across the pitch. 90 minutes. The one thing I'd say about Declan Rice is if you think back to his West Ham days, and he'd be a holding midfielder, but he almost knew he had to be a holding midfielder and an attacking midfielder and the leader. And he was doing so many jobs in the game. And you'd see him at times, 70 minutes, and he'd be hunched over, hands on his knees, trying to get his breath back in.
Yeah.
I watch him now, and because he knows he's got other players around him to do certain jobs, I'm watching him in the 98th minute, and he's cruising. And you think, what an asset that is for Arsenal late on in games.
Are you surprised that the number 8 part of his game now looks to be blimmin' perfect for him, and a bit of a masterstroke from the manager? Jorginho has set him free, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw that coming.
But I think they've helped each
Trossard
other, haven't they?
Sorry?
I think they've helped each other. I think even Rice has helped Jorginho,
without
because
the ball.
at times, off the ball...
He'll come back and play alongside him in defensive situations.
Yeah.
The last topic we've got to touch before moving on, Stephen, is the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Aaron Ramsdale.
Of
course, David Ray can't play against his parent club, the loan rules or whatever. So it was Aaron Ramsdale again back in the middle of November, I think it's 25th of November, where the reverse fixture, same again. Ramsdale played, Havertz scored the winning goal, but the goalkeeper looked very shaky. Talk to me about that goal that Wissa scored, closing down Aaron Ramsdale. Was it amazing from the striker? Was it because Ramsdale's rusty from not playing? How much of it is his fault, Ramsdale, at that moment? All of it?
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? Because if that's a defender on the pitch and he takes a heavy touch and he gets closed down, we're saying that he's too slow on the ball. Well, he is too slow on the ball, isn't he? And that happens with goalkeepers. I think he is a little bit rusty as well. I think there's an overthought of, do I have to play out from the back? And people are judging me. I'm not playing because of my kicking ability. And do I want to try and showcase that today? I think the big thing for me will just play your own game. You're not going to play anyway. I think that's been showed now by Arteta, which is such a shame for the lad.
Right, because particularly when it was sold that they're going to rotate, they're going to play. We haven't seen that at all.
No.
I feel bad for Ramsdale like that.
Yeah, but credit to Wissa. I mean, how quickly does he cover that ground?
Listen, the last thing on this, and I've said this a few times about goalkeepers, they're not very fast.
No.
Goalies, they're very, very good, and there's some goalkeepers that I've done pre-season that have great stamina.
Yeah.
But you forget, and the viewer forgets how quick footballers are, Stephen.
Yeah.
How quick, and particularly Premier League players, and particularly Premier League strikers. If remember when we used to play, if your touch isn't at that level, and your touch anywhere on the field isn't quite right, boom.
On you.
They're right in you, whether it's a tackle, whether it's taking the ball off your toe. And sometimes you get an example of a goalkeeper. Look, he had the ball. It wasn't an awful touch.
No.
He moved his feet pretty quickly. He tries to put his foot back and play the ball. And all of a sudden, he's flying in, slides in to make the challenge. It's just an example of how quick
phenomenal
players are, and goalies are a little slower.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's all it is, isn't it? But what I would say is, what a performance after that mistake.
Yeah, you're right.
Incredible
right.
performance.
No, it was great. Made some brilliant saves.
And I hope people understand how difficult that is to do that. To go in at half-time knowing that you've made an error, that the focus of the world is on you, who are watching that game, and we're all going, that's why he doesn't play. But that performance in the second half ultimately kept his team in it.
Yeah.
I mean, Ivan Toney's shot.
Amazing shot, by the
Unbelievable. But the save, and then the save from Collins from the header is a great save to tip it over the bar. He had an outstanding second half.
Fair play to
and
him.
I'm made up for him as well, because I've been in a situation before, and I'm sure you have yourself, where you feel so low and your confidence is that low, and you're thinking, no matter what I do, I know I'm not going to play or I'm not going to get in. And you feel sorry for yourself, whether it's
particularly when you get a chance, you get a chance to play and impress everybody, and you make a mistake like that.
I felt sorry. I felt so sorry for him.
That's a good point you make there, and important that we say the character of the man was pretty brilliant and impressive there afterwards. So, well done him, well done Arsenal, well done Havertz, and it's brilliant, isn't it? And this title race, as we move on to other teams here, I mean, it's the best we've seen it, certainly as we've been covering the league here at NBC. And it's tough to think of a tighter race for as long as we've been playing and watching the Premier League.
I think the most exciting title race was the Leicester one, because it was different. Yeah. It was a different type of story. Yeah. But these three teams are phenomenal, and they deserve to be exactly where they are. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I don't think anyone would have put Liverpool as close as this. I think we all thought, well, we'll see how they adjust.
Rebuilding midfield and stuff.
But, I mean, credit to all three. It's been brilliant so far.
They're technically great, and they've got an incredible fighting spirit. Yeah. And that's definitely in their managers. Yeah. And we're seeing it right now. And the Jurgen Klopp thing leaving I mean, it's just, we're a real sweet spot in the Premier League right now. And our viewing figures are showing that as well, which is great.
I think the only sad thing to come out of today's game was what a loss Klopp is going to be to the Premier League. Yeah. And that respect between the managers at the end of the game, the embrace, they knew they'd been in one of the best games. Yeah. And there was huge respect there for the style and how they hurt each other. But it's almost like they stood there as two boxers, just trading blows against each other. And then after it, they just, well played.
And John Champion's line, is this the last embrace? It's kind of cool, isn't it? And I think there was one interview with Pep, sort of saying that in 10 years' time, you're going to sit down with Jurgen Klopp over a beer and talk about that. I mean, I'm sure that, and he said, yeah, of course we will at some point. Can you imagine that conversation with a few beers? It's been incredible how they've driven each other.
Frightening.
To really high levels.
Yeah. Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.